Folktale from Orissa. The Seven Sisters-in-Law. A wealthy trading merchant who owned ships had 7 sons and a daughter. The sons were all married and helped their father in his trade. The trader, his wife, their sons and daughters-in-law, and their little daughter all lived happily together in a large house. Tapui, being the youngest among them, was always the center of attraction and received affection from everybody. Her father especially took care to meet every one of her desires. However, she never posed as the only daughter of a rich man and was happy to spend her time playing with her simple toys and dolls. One day, Tapui was playing house, trying her hand at cooking food in tiny earthen vessels. An old woman came that way, smiled at her and said, "Little girl, aren't you ashamed to play with clay dolls when your father has enough to get for you even a golden moon?" Tapui stopped playing, left the earthen vessels on the ground, went inside and sat in a corner, silently trying to understand the import of the remarks of the old woman. What could be wrong in playing with clay dolls and toys? She argued with herself. What would she do with a golden moon, even if her father were to procure one for her? She could at the most tell her friends that she possessed a golden moon. Would they feel jealous of her, or would they only laugh at her? When the women folk in the house found her sulking in a corner, they asked her what the matter was. But she kept her silence and they went away. However, her youngest sister-in-law, Nilandi, went up to her, sat with her on the floor, and took her hands into hers. "Tapui, won't you talk to me? Tell me what your problem is, and I shall find a way to solve it. Come on, speak." Tapui slowly turned her face to look at Nilindi and thought she could depend on her. "That old woman, she mocked at me when she saw me playing with clay toys. She said, 'My father could get me a golden moon if I ever wanted one. Could I have one, Didi?' So that's your problem, huh? Well, I shall consult mother and she'll tell father. I'm sure he'll get a golden moon for you. Don't worry. Right now, you continue playing with whatever toys and dolls you have." Nilindi gave her a pat and gently sent her out of the room. When the merchant came home and sat at lunch, his wife slowly broached Tapui's wish to him. He merely smiled and said, "You send her to me while I am resting." The woman was happy that her husband did not get angry with or shout at Tapui. He had hardly laid down on his cot when Tapui walked in. "Father, did you call me?" Without questioning her how she got the idea of a golden moon, he merely asked, "How big should it be, Tapui? As big as your dinner plate?" Tapui was now too shy to answer. "You want to play with it, don't you? I know how big it should be." He gave her an affectionate hug and said, "Now go and eat your food. There's a good girl." An order was placed with the local goldsmith, who immediately began making a golden plate. Sadly, before it was ready, the merchant passed away due to sudden illness, and By the time it was handed over, Tapoi's mother too died. She did not have any more interest in playing with the golden moon when the whole family was plunged in grief. She was herself left with a nagging fear whether her desire to own a golden moon had taken away her father and mother from her. Once the funeral rites were over, the seven brothers began loading their father's ship with merchandise. A day before they were to set sail, they called their wives together and told them they should be more affectionate to their little sister-in-law when her brothers were away. Mind you, she is an orphan. The wives protested in one voice. Why should you say that? How could she be an orphan when we are there to look after her and when you are all alive and will be back home once you have completed your mission? Don't have any apprehension about her. You go with a carefree mind, they all assured their husbands. The next day, the seven women and Tapoi and the friends and well-wishers of the family crowded the beachside to see off the brothers, who were garlanded and had tilak put on their forehead to wish them Godspeed and success. As the ship went out of sight, the womenfolk cried. Tapoi shed copious tears. For several days, the sisters-in-law treated Tapoi with great affection, and she was not grieving over the death of her parents any longer or missing her brothers. But that state of affairs was not everlasting. One day, the eldest woman in the house heard a beggar asking for alms. She took some time to come out. It was an old woman. How long have I been crying for some rice? Pity, no one in this large house was minding my cries. What happened to all the women here? The daughter-in-law said apologetically, We are all busy inside. Our young sister-in-law needs all attention. Who? That chit of a girl? And you are all toiling to keep her happy? Is she of any help to you? You will be foolish to think she'll have a good word about you to tell your husbands. You must put her to work. The woman went closer and whispered, I'll tell you what to do. Send her to graze the sheep in the forest. Who knows she won't be killed by a jackal or bitten by a snake? You can then explain that the girl had died of illness. After the woman had left, the eldest daughter-in-law went in and told the others of the old woman's visit. All of them agreed to the woman's suggestion. All except Neelandi. But alone, what could she do? From that day, Tapoi's fate took a U-turn. She was given all sorts of chores. She could not satisfy her sisters-in-law, who only found fault in whatever she did. They even denied her food. She often went to sleep on a half-empty stomach and a prayer on her lips. O Mangala Devi, please bring back my brothers soon. One day, her eldest sister-in-law called her and said, Today, you take the sheep to the forest for grazing. Here's your lunch. Tapoi controlled her tears. How could she walk up to the forest in the hot sun? After letting the sheep free, she opened the lunch packet only to find a handful of rice and sawdust for a side dish. She threw away the packet. In the evening, she returned home hungry. It was a similar case for the next 5 days when the lunch was packed by the sisters-in-law in turn. All the 5 days, Tapoi went home hungry. However, on the seventh day, it was Nilindi who prepared the packet, and Tapoi had enough to eat. Days and weeks passed by, except on days when Nilindi prepared the lunch pack. All other days, Tapoi had to starve. As luck would have it, one evening she found one kid missing from the herd. She looked for the little one everywhere. She called out her name. There was no response. It was getting dark and there were signs of an impending shower. So Tapoi abandoned her search and went home with the rest of the herd. Her eldest sister-in-law was very angry with her and got hold of a stout firewood to beat her. Tapoi got scared and ran out of the house and headed for the forest. It was pitch dark, and Tapoi cried loud for Goddess Mangala Devi. O Mother Savior, please be kind-hearted. Please bring back my brothers. I can't suffer any more. She began crying aloud every now and then, invoking the blessings of Mangala Devi. Fortunately for her, the ship which was bringing back the 7 brothers was passing by the forest. They heard cries of a girl. Who could it be crying at this hour? And in the dark forest, they wondered. 2 of the brothers left the ship and went into the forest from where they had heard the cries. They saw the girl but took some time to recognize her as their dear sister. Tapoi, how come you are here in the forest? They asked her. Tapoi then narrated her plight. They consoled her and took her to their ship, where the other 5 brothers too received her with great affection. They realized how their wife, except Nilindi, had been unkind to their young sister-in-law. They decided to teach them a lesson. The news of the arrival of the ship next morning was greeted with excitement. All the 7 women gathered at the beach to welcome their husbands. The eldest had already directed the others what to say if the brothers were to inquire about Tapoi. They were, however, surprised to see the girl on the deck, all bedecked with ornaments and gorgeously dressed. The menfolk greeted their wives with an angry countenance. On reaching home, they gave many gifts to Nilindi, while the other 6 women received lashes from their husbands for ill-treating their younger sister. For several days, the brothers treated Tapoi like a princess.
Dhanyavad. Thank you. If you like this video, do like, subscribe and share. See you in the next one. Bye bye.